Time. That's the one thing we can't make more of. People always say, life is short. But honestly, it's not short. It's just wasted. Most people spend their days doing things they don't like, for reasons they don't understand, waiting for the weekend to feel alive. That's insane. Every single minute matters. You don't get to hit pause or rewind. The question you should be asking yourself is, what are you doing with your minutes? Because every decision, every choice is either building your future or wasting your time. I learned this when I started my first company. We were in this tiny office, barely any space. I slept on the couch, showered at the YMCA, worked 20 hours a day. It wasn't because I liked suffering. It was because I knew every minute counted. While most people were thinking about balance, I was thinking about momentum. If you want to create something extraordinary, you can't treat time casually. Treat every minute like fuel. Burn it on what actually matters. If you want to make every minute work for you, stop living on autopilot. Ask yourself, why am I doing this right now? Is it moving the needle? Or am I just being busy for the sake of being busy? The world rewards results, not effort. There's no bonus for spinning your wheels. Focus on the signal, not the noise. That's how we built Tesla. Every meeting, every project, if it wasn't creating real value, it was gone. And don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't exist. When I started SpaceX, people thought it was impossible. They told me, you'll fail. Rockets are for governments, not for startups. If I'd waited for approval or the right moment, SpaceX wouldn't exist. Action creates opportunity. Minutes turn into progress only when you decide to move, even if the risk is high. Especially if the risk is high. Build a schedule that respects your goals. If you want to build something world-changing, your time has to reflect that. I divide my days into 5-minute slots. 5 minutes. That's how seriously I take time. Most people think they need more hours. No, you need better focus. Eliminate distractions, cut the noise, and execute relentlessly. That's how you get ahead when everyone else is drifting. And here's something people forget. Intensity compounds. One focused hour today is worth 10 distracted hours tomorrow. You don't have to work 100 hours a week, but if you do, make those hours count. Be fully present in what you're doing. Whether it's designing a product, writing code, or making a hard decision, those concentrated minutes will separate you from the people who coast. But don't make the mistake of thinking, this is about money or titles. It's not. Making every minute work for you is about freedom. The freedom to create, to solve problems that matter, to push humanity forward. That's why I care about Mars, about sustainable energy, about AI. The goal isn't to be busy. The goal is to build a future worth living in. And that future is built minute by minute. So, start now. Look at your calendar. Look at your habits. Look at your choices. Are they aligned with what you say you want? If not, change them. Time doesn't negotiate. Every minute that passes is gone forever. Make every single one of them count. For you, for your mission, for the world. You know, when we talk about life and about the fleeting nature of time, most of us underestimate just how much power we hold in the choices we make every single day. Time doesn't pause for anyone. It doesn't stop when we're tired. It doesn't slow down when we're confused. And it certainly doesn't wait for us to figure things out. The truth is, every one of us wakes up with the same 24 hours, the same 60 minutes in an hour, the same 60 seconds in every minute. And yet, some people use those minutes to change the world, to build something lasting, to touch the lives of millions. Others let those same minutes slip through their fingers, wasted on distractions, on fear, on waiting for the right moment. That never comes. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Think about this moment, right now. as if time itself is standing still for you to take a good look. What are you doing with your minutes? Are you spending them building something meaningful, or are you letting them get lost in the noise of routine? Because here's the thing, life isn't about the number of breaths we take, it's about the moments we turn into something extraordinary. Every dream, every achievement, every breakthrough you've ever admired began with someone who understood that their minutes were too valuable to waste. And it's not just about ambition. It's not just about money or titles, or even success as the world defines it. It's about recognizing that the clock is always ticking, and the choices you make in those quiet, ordinary moments are what shape the extraordinary. That's why we have to be intentional. Intentional with our thoughts, intentional with our actions, intentional with the way we spend our time. Because time is that one resource you can never earn back. You can rebuild a career, you can recover from failure, you can even repair relationships, but you cannot rewind a single minute of your life. Think about the people who inspire you. Inventors, leaders, creators, the folks who had an idea and refused to let it die. They didn't have more hours in their day than you do. They just used their time differently. They made a decision, not once, but every single day, to treat their minutes like gold. To wake up early, to push through fatigue, to keep going when everyone else stopped. And they weren't superheroes. They were human. They faced doubt. They faced fear. But they made a choice to own their time instead of letting it own them. And here's what I've learned. Greatness doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in the discipline of those small, deliberate choices you make minute by minute, hour by hour, day after day. It's built in the hours you spend studying while your friends are out, in the extra effort you put into your work when no one is watching, in the courage it takes to speak up, to raise your hand, to step forward when the easier path is to step back. That's how change happens. That's how progress is made. But I'm not just here to tell you to work harder, because this isn't about working yourself into the ground. It's about clarity. It's about knowing who you are, what you value, and where you want to go. When you have that clarity, every minute has purpose. Even the quiet moments, when you're reflecting, learning, preparing, those minutes are investments in the life you want to build. And the more intentional you are, the more momentum you create. The beauty of time is that it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter where you start, what you look like, how much money you have, or what mistakes you've made in the past. Every morning, you wake up with the same opportunity to decide how you will spend the minutes in front of you. That's power. That's possibility. And that's a gift we don't always appreciate until it's too late. So, I want you to start thinking differently. I want you to stop waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, the perfect alignment of circumstances. There is no perfect. There is only now. There is only this moment and what you choose to do with it. If you want to build something extraordinary, you have to start where you are, with what you have, and commit. Fully commit to making your minutes count. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, I don't have enough time. But let me tell you, you do. It's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you haven't learned to prioritize it. Time expands for those who are clear about their purpose. And when you start aligning your actions with your values, you'll find that those minutes you thought were too few become more than enough to create change. Because in the end, when you look back, it won't be the titles or the trophies or the numbers in your bank account that matter most. It will be the minutes you spent daring to believe, daring to try, daring to push yourself further than you thought you could go. The minutes where you learned, where you grew, where you fought for something that mattered. Those minutes, those are the ones that will define your story. I remember those early days like they were yesterday. A cramped office with barely enough room for a desk and a sleeping bag. Empty takeout boxes stacked in the corner, wires running across the floor, and a computer that seemed to freeze at the exact moment you needed it most. There was no glamour, no spotlight, no applause. Just long hours, relentless focus, and an unwavering belief that if we worked harder, longer, and smarter, we could turn nothing into something. That belief didn't come from talent alone. It came from a decision to show up, to outwork, and to outlast. The truth is, opportunity doesn't knock on your door with a polite introduction. It doesn't wait for you to be ready or for your schedule to open up. It comes disguised as hard work, as late nights, as mornings when you wake up exhausted but keep going anyway. When I look back, I see that the reason we were able to build anything at all was because we refused to waste time wondering if we were ready. We were too busy putting in the hours, learning, failing, and trying again. Here's the thing about building something from the ground up, T. You have to be willing to do the work that no one else wants to do, to stay when others leave, to push when others pause, to keep going when the odds are stacked against you. Because every minute you spend working toward your vision compounds. Every line of code, every phone call, every late night is a brick in the foundation of something greater than yourself. And you have to understand, this isn't just about working harder, it's about working with purpose. Hard work without direction can leave you exhausted but stagnant. But when you combine relentless effort with clear intention, you start to move forward, faster and with more clarity. Back then, we didn't have much. We didn't have deep pockets or fancy connections. What we had was time, discipline, and an unshakable belief that progress was possible if we just kept moving. It's easy, when you're standing on the outside looking in, to believe that success happens overnight. That someone had a breakthrough, a lucky break, or some genius moment that changed everything. But that's a myth. What really changes everything is consistency. The kind of consistent effort that feels invisible in the moment, but becomes undeniable over time. It's the nights you spend solving problems no one else can see. It's the weekends you trade for progress. It's the patience to do the unglamorous work, the work no one celebrates, because you know what you're building is worth it. There were days when I questioned everything. Days when the servers crashed, the money ran thin, and the doubts grew loud. But even in those moments, there was no thought of stopping, because the vision was bigger than the fear. The hours were long, but they were ours. Every minute, every second, was an investment in something we believed in, something that would one day make a difference. And that's the lesson I want you to take with you. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to have all the answers. What you need is a willingness to put in the work, to grind, to learn, to adapt, until the vision in your mind becomes the reality in front of you. Hard work is the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you start or what resources you have. What matters is how badly you want it and what you're willing to do to make it happen. But let me be clear. This isn't about working yourself into exhaustion without purpose. It's about building momentum. It's about showing up every day with the mindset that progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Some days, you'll take giant steps forward. Other days, it will feel like you're barely moving. But if you keep stacking those minutes, if you keep pushing, eventually you'll look up and realize you've built something real. Something that only exists because you refused to stop. And as you do this, surround yourself with people who share your drive. People who see the value in those long hours, who understand that every late night and early morning is a down payment on the future you're building. Because no one builds greatness alone. You need a team, not just for the work they do, but for the belief they bring when your own belief wavers. Those early years taught me that time is the most valuable currency we have. You can spend it, you can invest it, or you can waste it. The choice is yours. But if you want to build something extraordinary, something that outlives you, then you have to make the decision every single day to make every minute count. Not just the big moments, not just the exciting moments, but the quiet ones, the challenging ones, the moments when it feels like no one is watching. Because it's in those moments, more than any other, that the foundation of your future is laid. There's a trap that far too many people fall into, and it's this belief that being busy means being productive. That filling every hour of your day, running from one task to another, somehow guarantees progress. But business is not the same as impact. The world doesn't reward the number of hours you log, it rewards the value you create in those hours. And the difference between people who just stay busy and those who actually build, innovate, and lead comes down to one thing: knowing how to separate the signal from the noise. Every day we are bombarded with distractions, endless emails, notifications, meetings that go nowhere, conversations that sound urgent but change nothing. It's easy to mistake motion for progress because, in the moment, it feels good to be moving, to be doing something. But the hard truth is that 1,000 meaningless motions will never get you closer to your destination. Progress only comes when you focus relentlessly on the work that matters, on the choices that actually drive you forward. When you build something from nothing, this lesson becomes painfully clear. In the early days, every minute mattered because we didn't have time, money, or people to waste. If we spent hours debating minor details or chasing problems that didn't move the needle, we risked losing everything. That forced clarity was a gift, even though it didn't feel like one at the time. It taught me that the key to growth isn't doing more. It's doing what matters and doing it better than anyone else. But clarity doesn't come by accident. It comes from asking hard questions of yourself, of your team, of your goals. What is the real priority today? What actions will actually create value? And what are the things that feel important but, in reality, are nothing more than noise distracting you from the work that matters most? Learning to ask those questions and to answer them honestly is how you build discipline. It's how you start making your minutes work for you instead of against you. And here's the thing, when you start filtering out the noise, something remarkable happens. You find time you didn't think you had. You discover energy you thought you'd lost. Because all that time and energy that used to be scattered in 1,000 directions is now focused, sharp, and deliberate. You stop reacting to every small distraction, and you start acting with intention. That's when real progress happens, not in the chaos, but in the clarity. This principle isn't just for business or innovation, it's for life. Look at your own day. How many hours are spent on things that truly align with what you want? How many conversations, tasks, or habits are simply filling space? The uncomfortable truth is that most of us spend far too much of our time reacting to other people's priorities, not our own. And if you let the world decide what fills your calendar, you will always be busy, but never fulfilled. I've learned that you have to protect your time, like it's the most valuable resource you own. Because it is. That means saying no to things that don't serve your mission, even when it's uncomfortable. It means setting boundaries, even when people don't understand. It means being willing to be misunderstood in the short term, so that you can build something meaningful in the long term. And make no mistake, This kind of discipline isn't easy. It takes courage to pause and to reflect, to step back and decide what really matters. But every great achievement, every bold innovation, has come from that kind of discipline. Think about it, the people you admire most didn't get there by accident. They got there because they knew what to ignore. They knew what deserved their focus and what didn't. The beauty of learning to focus on the signal over the noise is that it multiplies the power of your efforts. You start to notice patterns. You begin to anticipate problems before they happen. You find ways to do, in a week, what used to take a month. Not because you're working harder, but because you're finally working smarter. That's the difference between drifting through your days and deliberately shaping them. And the impact of that discipline ripples out into everything you do. It sharpens your decision making. It strengthens your confidence. It builds a sense of momentum that fuels you forward even in the hardest times. Because when you know what matters, when you can see the signal clearly, you stop wasting your minutes on the noise, and you start using those minutes to build something that lasts. So, ask yourself today, what's noise in your life? What's stealing your time without giving anything back? And more importantly, what's the signal? What are those few things, those few priorities, that if you poured your energy into them, would change everything? Because once you find that signal, once you commit to protecting it, every minute you invest will bring you closer to the life, the vision, the impact you've been chasing. There will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a day when everything lines up exactly the way you imagined. The right resources, the right people, the right circumstances, the perfect plan. If you keep waiting for that moment, you will wait your entire life. Progress doesn't wait for permission. An opportunity doesn't send an invitation in the mail. It's there, right now, in front of you, waiting for you to act. When you look at any breakthrough, in science, in business, in art, in leadership, you'll see a pattern. It didn't start with certainty. It started with risk. Someone decided to take a step forward without knowing if the ground beneath them would hold. That first step, that willingness to act when doubt and fear were loudest, is what separates those who talk about their dreams from those who actually live them. Think about the things that have shaped history, the innovations that changed how we live, the movements that redefined what was possible. None of them began in comfort. None of them began in safety. They began because someone, somewhere, chose to act despite the unknown, despite the criticism, despite the odds. And that's a lesson worth carrying with you. The perfect conditions you're waiting for do not exist. The only perfect time is now. I know what it feels like to be standing on the edge of an idea, looking down at the risk, wondering if the leap is worth it. I know the voice in your head that says, "What if I fail? What if this doesn't work?" But here's the truth: failure is not the enemy. Fear is. Fear keeps you frozen in place while the world moves on without you. And if you let fear dictate your choices, you'll find yourself in the same place, years from now, wondering what could have been if you just had the courage to start. Starting is the hardest part because it demands that you let go of the illusion of control. It forces you to embrace the unknown, to take ownership of your own future without guarantees. But here's the reward: action creates momentum. The first step may be shaky, it may even feel small, but it sets everything else in motion. With every step forward, the fear gets quieter, the path becomes clearer, and you start to realize that the only way to build confidence is by doing. I've seen it in every journey worth telling. The first rocket we launched didn't succeed. It failed. And so did the second, and the third. But every failure taught us something. Every setback moved us closer to success. By the fourth launch, We didn't just send a rocket into space. We sent a message to ourselves and to the world that risk is not something to be feared, but a price you pay for progress. And let's be honest, risk isn't just about big ventures or monumental projects. It's in the daily choices you make. It's raising your hand in a room when you're not sure you have the right answer. It's applying for that job you're not fully qualified for. It's sharing your idea when everyone else is quiet. Risk is in every decision that pushes you outside your comfort zone, and that's where growth happens. Outside the familiar, beyond the safe, in that space where you're not sure if you're ready, but you move anyway. The most powerful thing you can do is reframe how you see risk. Instead of thinking of it as a threat, see it as a doorway. On the other side of that door is the life you want. The vision you've held on to, the version of yourself you've been waiting to become. Every great achievement, every dream realized, is the result of someone willing to walk through that doorway. And yes, you will stumble. You will make mistakes. You will face setbacks that make you question whether you made the right choice. But what you will also find is that you are far more resilient than you think. You will learn to adapt, to grow, to turn those lessons into the very foundation of your success. And you will look back, years from now, and realize that the greatest risk was never taking one at all. So when that voice in your head says, wait, when it says, not yet, remember this: there are people no smarter, no more talented, no more prepared than you are who are moving forward right now simply because they chose to start. They chose action over hesitation, courage over comfort, progress over fear. You have that same choice. Time is the only thing you will never get back. The clock is ticking whether you act or not. So take the step. Make the call. Send the email. Launch the idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to begin. Because once you start, once you take that first bold step, you'll discover that what felt impossible was always within reach. You just had to decide to move. I've always believed that the way you spend your days is the way you spend your life. And if you want to build something that matters, a business, a dream, a life of purpose, you have to be intentional about how you spend your time. Time is the currency you'll never get back, and how you choose to invest it will decide the kind of future you create. That's why you can't treat your minutes casually. You have to organize your days with the same discipline you'd bring to the most important project of your life. Because that's exactly what they are. When I first started to understand this, I began breaking my days down into small, deliberate blocks of time. Not hours, but minutes. 5 minutes at a time. It forced me to ask, over and over again, is this the highest use of my energy? Am I working on something that really matters? And if the answer was no, I stopped and I redirected. That level of focus isn't easy. It's uncomfortable, even unnatural at first. But when you start to take ownership of your schedule, when you start telling your time where to go instead of wondering where it went, something remarkable happens. You start to feel in control of your life instead of being pulled in 100 different directions. Most people think they need more hours in a day. They don't. What they need is clarity and discipline. Because the truth is, you already have enough time. It's just that too much of it is leaking away into distractions, into habits that don't serve you, into commitments that don't align with what you say you want. You can't build a life of purpose if you're always reacting to the demands of others, always waiting for the free time that never comes. You have to claim your time. You have to protect it fiercely. And I know that's not easy in a world that's designed to keep you distracted. Every ping on your phone, every meeting invite, every piece of noise competing for your attention is a test. And if you're not careful, you wake up one day and realize you've spent months, even years, working on things that never really mattered to you. That's why building a disciplined schedule isn't about rigidity, it's about freedom. It's about creating space for the work, the relationships, and the growth that actually matter. When you start to treat time like the precious resource it is, you begin to prioritize differently. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop trying to please everyone. You start measuring opportunities not by how they look, but by whether they move you closer to your mission. And when you do that, you'll notice something. Your energy shifts. Your days stop feeling scattered and start feeling intentional. This is not about working yourself to the point of exhaustion. It's about using your energy wisely. It's about recognizing that every day you're trading your minutes for something and making sure the trade is worth it. When you understand that, you stop wasting time on the things that drain you and start investing in the things that build you. And that's when you begin to see real change. I've met people in every field, from engineers to artists to teachers, who have achieved extraordinary things, not because they had more talent, not because they were handed better opportunities, but because they respected their time. They learned to focus on what mattered most, even when it wasn't glamorous, even when no one was watching. They made a habit of showing up fully in the moments that mattered, and they did it consistently, day after day. And here's what happens when you do that: intensity compounds. One focused hour today is worth 10 distracted hours tomorrow. When you show up with your full attention, when you pour yourself into the task in front of you, you start to build momentum. That momentum is what separates people who dream from people who execute. It's what turns an idea into a company, a goal into a reality, a vision into something tangible that others can see and touch. But to get there, you have to be willing to do the hard work of discipline. You have to build habits that support your goals instead of sabotage them. That means setting boundaries. That means turning off distractions. That means saying no. A lot. Because every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you're saying no to something that does. There's a clarity that comes when you start to live this way. You begin to see your minutes for what they are, the building blocks of your future. And when you realize that, you stop treating time like it's infinite. You start waking up every day asking yourself, what can I do today that will matter 5 years from now? What can I build? What can I learn? What step can I take that will move me closer to the life I want? The answer won't always be dramatic. Sometimes it's one phone call, one conversation, one tiny step forward. But those small steps, those deliberate minutes, are what create transformation over time. Because success isn't built in giant leaps, it's built in the quiet discipline of showing up over and over again, making every minute count. There's something powerful that happens when you learn to direct your energy with precision. It's not just about how much time you put in, it's about the quality of that time. 1 hour of deep, focused work can accomplish more than 10 hours spent scattered, bouncing between distractions. That's the difference between people who move the needle and those who stay stuck in the same place year after year. I've seen it time and time again. People believe that putting in more hours is the key, that the path to success is paved with exhaustion and burnout. But the truth is, it's not the quantity of hours that builds something extraordinary, it's the intensity you bring to those hours. It's the ability to be fully present, to commit your attention so completely that the work in front of you becomes your entire world for that moment. When you learn to harness that level of focus, everything changes. You stop spinning your wheels. You stop pouring energy into things that don't matter. And you start creating results that are impossible to ignore. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's the daily decision to protect your focus like it's the most valuable thing you own. Because it is. And here's the beauty of it. Intensity compounds. One focused hour today doesn't just move you forward, it creates momentum that carries into tomorrow. That momentum builds confidence. It builds skill. It builds clarity. Over time, that consistency, that ability to show up with your full attention, is what separates the ones who dream from the ones who do. But intensity requires sacrifice. It means saying no to distractions, even the ones that feel good in the moment. It means resisting the pull of instant gratification for the sake of long-term impact. It means recognizing that every time you allow your attention to be divided, you're giving away the very resource that could change your future. There's a story I often think about. Moments spent in rooms where the clock didn't seem to exist, where the work consumed every thought, every bit of energy. Those were the moments that created breakthroughs. Not because of some spark of genius, but because of sustained, focused effort. The willingness to sit in the discomfort of hard problems and wrestle with them until a solution emerged. That's what builds mastery. That's what creates something lasting. And it's not just about work. This principle applies to everything. Relationships grow deeper when you give them your full attention. Learning accelerates when you're fully present with the material, instead of multitasking your way through it. Even rest becomes more restorative when you're intentional about it, when you step away from the noise and give your mind space to recover. Focus isn't just a skill. It's a way of living with purpose. We live in a world that glorifies busy. A culture that tells you if your calendar isn't full, you're not doing enough. But business isn't the goal. Impact is. And impact comes from the ability to cut through the noise, to identify what truly matters, and to give those things everything you've got. It's a discipline of saying, this is where my energy goes, and following through every single day. And here's the hard part, focus is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront the things you've been avoiding. It strips away the easy excuse of, I don't have time, and replaces it with the reality that you've always had the time. You just weren't using it well. But when you push past that discomfort, when you train yourself to stay present with the work that matters, you unlock a level of potential you didn't even know you had. It starts small. Maybe it's an hour a day, set aside for the task that matters most. Maybe it's the commitment to silence your phone, close your inbox, and just be where your feet are. Over time, that practice builds a kind of mental muscle. You become sharper, faster, more deliberate. You start to trust yourself, to know that when it's time to perform, you can deliver because you've trained for it. The truth is, there's no shortcut to this. There's no hack that replaces focused, intentional work. But if you make that commitment, if you decide that your attention is too valuable to waste, you'll start to see results that feel almost unfair. Projects that once felt overwhelming will start to move forward. Skills that once seemed out of reach will become second nature. And opportunities will find you, because the world has a way of opening doors for people who show they can handle the weight of their own potential. What you'll realize, over time, is that this isn't just about achieving more. It's about becoming more. About stepping into the version of yourself that doesn't just drift through life, but takes ownership of every moment, every choice, every minute. Because when you learn to be fully present, when you bring intensity to the things that matter most, you stop chasing time, and you start making it work for you. There's a certain kind of magic in understanding the power of compounded effort. It's not about one big moment that changes everything. but about the steady, deliberate commitment you bring to each day. 1 hour of focus today builds on the hour you committed yesterday. And those hours, those days, they stack up. Over time, they create something bigger than you ever imagined. That's the truth. Most people overlook consistency, when paired with intensity, turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. I've seen people work themselves to the bone, putting in endless hours without ever truly engaging with the task at hand. They confuse motion with progress, as though being constantly busy somehow guarantees success. But real transformation doesn't happen in chaos. It happens when you give your full attention to the moment, when you choose depth over distraction, presence over passivity. And when you do that consistently, when you show up with everything you've got, the results start to multiply in ways that are hard to measure in the beginning, but impossible to ignore over time. Think about it like planting seeds. You can't expect a tree to grow overnight, but every drop of water, every ray of sunlight, every bit of care compounds until one day you look up and there's something strong, something alive, something that wasn't there before. That's how growth works. And the same principle applies to your life, your work, your relationships, your dreams. What you pour into them each day, with intention and focus, will compound. But let's be honest, bringing that level of intensity to your hours isn't easy. It requires discipline. It requires a willingness to turn off the noise, to resist the pull of a world that thrives on distraction. It means setting boundaries, saying no when it's easier to say yes, and making choices that won't always be popular. That's the price of focus, and it's one that most people aren't willing to pay. But if you want to separate yourself, if you want to build something that matters, you have to be willing to do what others won't. And here's the thing, when you do commit, when you choose to be intentional with your time, something changes inside you. You start to feel a shift, a sense of control, a sense of purpose. You begin to trust yourself more because you see the evidence of your own consistency. You see the hours adding up, the skills sharpening, the vision getting clearer. And with each small win, your confidence grows. That confidence fuels even greater effort. And the cycle continues, building momentum that carries you forward even when the path gets hard. There's a quiet power in those moments of deep work. When you're so immersed in what you're doing that time seems to disappear. When the outside world fades away and it's just you and the work in front of you. That's where mastery is built. That's where breakthroughs happen. Not in the noise of endless multitasking, but in the stillness of focused effort. And when you learn to create that space for yourself, when you learn to tap into that state of presence, you'll find that your productivity, your creativity, your results all begin to accelerate. But this isn't just about productivity, it's about fulfillment. Because when you show up fully for the things that matter, when you bring intensity and presence to your work, your relationships, your growth, you create a sense of alignment. Your actions start to match your values. Your days start to reflect your priorities. And that alignment, that sense of living intentionally, is what turns a good life into a great one. I think about the moments when the hours were long and the challenges were heavy. What made those seasons bearable? What made them meaningful was knowing that every ounce of effort, every focused minute, was building towards something bigger. That's the gift of intensity. It allows you to see beyond the immediate, to trust that the hard work you're putting in now is an investment that will pay off in ways you can't yet see. The truth is, anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can focus for a week. But the people who create real change, who build things that last, are the ones who keep showing up. Day after day, week after week, year after year. They don't rely on bursts of inspiration, they rely on discipline. They understand that consistency is the bridge between where they are and where they want to be. And that's the lesson worth carrying with you. That every hour you choose to be present, every moment you choose to focus, every bit of effort you stack on top of yesterday's effort is shaping your future in ways you can't fully grasp right now. The growth may be invisible at first, the results slow to reveal themselves, but over time, those compounded minutes will take you further than you ever thought possible. So, honor your time. Protect your focus. And remember that intensity isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things, fully and consistently. Because when you commit to that kind of discipline, when you let your minutes build on one another with purpose, you create a force that nothing can slow down. Every day, you wake up with the same gift time. And whether you realize it or not, that time is the most valuable resource you will ever have. You can earn back money. You can rebuild after loss. You can start over when things fall apart. But you will never recover the minutes that slip through your hands. That's why you have to live with a sense of urgency. Not panic, not fear, but purpose. Because the way you spend your minutes is the story you will tell about your life. I've seen it in my own journey, and in the lives of people who've built things that last. The people who achieve, who grow, who create change in their lives, and in the lives of others, are the ones who understand that every choice they make is a trade. Every yes is a no to something else. Every hour you spend is a brick in the foundation of the future you are building. And that future, the one you dream about, is not built by accident. It's built intentionally, minute by minute, decision by decision, with a clarity that keeps you moving even when the path isn't easy. The truth is, it's easy to let life happen to you. It's easy to fall into routines, to wake up, go through the motions, and tell yourself that one day you'll start living differently. When the timing is better, when the conditions are right, when you feel ready. But that's a dangerous trap, because there is no perfect moment. There is no better time. There is only now. And if you don't take ownership of your time, someone else will. The world will happily decide how you spend your minutes, and before you know it, you'll be left wondering where they all went. Taking control of your time starts with honesty. It means looking at your days and asking yourself hard questions. Are you investing your minutes in the things that align with your values? Are you spending your time building toward the life you say you want? Or are you caught up in distractions, in noise, in things that look urgent but don't matter? Those questions aren't easy to answer, but they are necessary if you want to create a life of meaning. And once you start to answer them honestly, something shifts. You begin to see where your time is going. You begin to recognize the habits, the patterns, the places where you've been trading your minutes for comfort, for distraction, for approval. And when you see it, you can change it. You can start making choices that honor your goals, your values, your vision. This isn't about filling every moment with work. It's not about running yourself into exhaustion. It's about alignment. It's about making sure that the way you spend your time reflects what matters most to you. Because when your minutes are aligned with your mission, every day becomes an opportunity to grow, to create, to contribute, to become the person you were meant to be. And the beautiful thing about living this way is that it doesn't just change your results, it changes you. When you start taking ownership of your time, you build confidence. You build trust in yourself. You start to see that you are capable of more than you believed, not because you suddenly have more talent or more resources, but because you've decided to stop wasting the most precious thing you have. There will be days when it's hard. Days when distractions feel louder than your discipline. Days when progress feels slow and the temptation to quit is strong. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments when you have to remember why you started, when you have to remind yourself that every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Because progress isn't always visible in the moment. It builds quietly, minute by minute, until one day you look up and realize that you've moved farther than you ever thought possible. I've watched people transform their lives not through sudden, dramatic changes, but through small, deliberate choices repeated every single day. They chose to use their minutes differently. They chose to focus when others were distracted, to build when others were waiting, to keep moving forward when it would have been easier to stop. And over time, those choices compounded. They built momentum, and that momentum carried them to places they once thought were out of reach. That's the lesson I want you to carry with you, that your minutes are your power. What you do with them will determine the life you create, the person you become, the legacy you leave. Don't trade them cheaply. Don't give them away to things that don't matter. Use them with intention. Use them with courage. Use them to build a life that reflects not just what you hope for, but what you're willing to work for. Because at the end of the day, when you look back, it won't be the noise that you remember. It won't be the distractions or the excuses. It will be the moments when you chose to act, the moments when you took control of your time, when you aligned your actions with your purpose, when you decided that every single minute would count. Those are the minutes that will tell your story. Every journey, every breakthrough, every quiet victory begins with the same simple truth: time is the one thing we can never get back. And what separates those who build extraordinary lives from those who simply drift through them is not luck, not genius, but intention. It's the decision, repeated day after day, to make every minute count. There will be distractions. There will be doubt. There will be moments when the path feels unclear and the weight of the work feels heavy. But that is when you remember why you started. You remember that progress isn't about speed. It's about direction. It's about showing up with focus, with discipline, with the courage to take the next step, even when the outcome isn't certain. Because greatness isn't built in a single moment of inspiration. It's built in the quiet discipline of the minutes you invest, the choices you make when no one is watching, the work you pour into the vision you refuse to let go of. Those minutes, the ones you guard, the ones you dedicate with intention, they become the foundation of something far greater than you. So, when you leave here, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. Decide right now that your minutes will not be wasted. Decide that every hour, every day, will move you closer to the life you want to create. And when doubt creeps in, because it will, remind yourself that the future is built not by those who wait, but by those who act. Make every minute work for you. Make them build your vision. Make them push you forward when comfort begs you to stay still. And one day, when you look back, you won't just see the time that passed. You'll see the life you created, minute by deliberate minute.